This is my favorite spot right here. You know, sitting at the desk on a stool. You know, that's one of my favorite places.
All right. We're here at Eddie Wilbanks shop here, and I guess this is Memphis. It's Eads.
Eads, yeah. We're Fayette County.
Fayette County, yeah. We're not actually in Memphis, but
Yeah,
we're right on the outside of Memphis, Tennessee. Anyway, Eddie, just tell us a little bit about yourself. How you got involved in what you're doing, and
well, when I got out of high school, I wanted to drag race, and I couldn't afford to buy the stuff they were building out on the West Coast. So my friends and I decided we had to build it ourselves. And I met a man named Marshall Robilio, and he became my mentor. I would go to his house and hang around. He showed me how to drill a hole with a drill press or a hand drill. He showed me how to stick weld. He showed me the fundamentals of running a lathe. And basically, he just taught me the fundamentals of a machine shop. Well, as time went by, I was learning more and more as I did more and more. And after about 8 years out of high school, I just dropped out of the job scene and started working for myself out of our garage at our house. And I've managed to make a living doing that since then. And so everything that I do was an evolution of those first little bits of training that Marshall gave me. As I grew in it, I learned how to do custom paint work. For several years I did custom paint work on race cars, street cars, just whatever. I've made custom exhaust systems for airplanes. I've done work for FedEx back when they were getting started. I've done work for local gunsmiths. I've done work for the medical industry. I do specialty, I guess you'd say, somewhat precision, delicate work. I don't take in big jobs. I don't take parts off of people's cars. They have to take the part off, bring it to me, I repair it, or weld it, give it back to them, they take it from there. I have on purpose just a man door, so you can't get a car or a boat in here. And so I
probably should have done a few things different at my place.
So that's basically, I've been involved in drag racing for a number of years. I've ultimately built a top fuel dragster in our garage at home that we ran successfully. Then I got involved in motorcycle racing, flat track racing, and Betty and I traveled around the country for about 12 years flat track racing. I didn't ride the bikes. I was too old by then. And then we road raced motorcycles for a couple of years. And I've been to Bonneville about 3 times with a guy setting land speed records on a motorcycle. So I've done most things, or things that most people dream about, but I've lived it, enjoyed it. It's been a fantastic life. And most of my customers have ultimately become friends. I don't guess I made very many people mad, so...
Yeah. Well, me and Eddie met at church, and it didn't take long for us to get to talking shop, and realize that we kind of had similar interests, guns and just
a lot of common ground.
All things mechanical.
Yeah, yeah.
But
absolutely.
Yeah.
And besides that, Paul's not an all-around bad guy to be around. I mean, but aside from that.
Aside from that.
take long to cover 78 years, did it?
Well, you could go into more detail. I think, it's like it's all the stories you've told me, and just taking, I wanted to come out here and do a tour, just coming out here and seeing all the stuff like next door here, the old motorcycle y'all built.
Yeah. Yeah, the Megacycle. Yeah, it's an aluminum plate chassis with a 500cc snowmobile engine in it.
Yeah. Anyway, just really neat stuff. Like to maybe come back a little later and get a little bit more, footage on some individual stuff.
Yeah. Well, what we were doing just a minute ago there, I was welding up an aluminum cylinder head. These race guys, they drop valves and other things that pretty much destroy a cylinder head, a combustion chamber and all. And I take them and I clean them all up, take the seats out usually and weld everything up that's damaged. Then the machine shop does all the machine work and puts it back into operation. Like we said, some of these heads are quite expensive, so if you can save one of them for a few $100s, well, you've done the guy a real favor. So this summer's been I bet I've done maybe 10 or 12 heads this summer. It's like just a rash of it. I think it's a combination of the cams nowadays have real high lift. They have to run really heavy spring pressures. And so if you have the least little thing that's not exactly right, you've got a disaster. That's what we're seeing.
And you're building a 50 caliber.
Yeah, it's a...
I should probably get some pictures. All right, tell us about your 50 cal, Eddie.
All right, this is a 50 caliber. Shoots a 50 BMG round. Like that.
All right.
This is not a live round, it's actually a bottle opener.
Okay.
All right, so this is a Fisher Macmillan action. A guy named R.L. Fisher designed this action, and Rock Macmillan manufactured it for him. It's a single shot, and it's what they call a shell holder bolt face. So what you do, you take the bolt out, you slide the round in, put it back in, you're ready to fire it. You fire it, take the empty case out, put another one in.
Okay.
So it's just a real basic, simple design. Works very well. So that's the action, this area right here. This is not the correct barrel for it that I'm going to use. I have a Feddersen barrel for it. However, I wanted to build my own stock. I had been seeing some of these, what they call space guns, so I wanted to build a kind of a radical space gun. So I machined this lower section out of a chunk of aluminum. It looks almost like a pistol. It holds the trigger group. It uses a Remington Model 70 trigger, and then just AR style grip. And these two rods have the adjustable shoulder piece on them. They run through this big aluminum block. This aluminum block clamps around the barrel. And inside this block, there are two die springs. They're separated by a disc that's attached to this rod. So when you fire the weapon, the action can recoil and rebound against those die springs. I don't know how it works yet because I haven't shot it, but that's the concept. And then out here I simply just have a block that holds the bipod. So that is the stock. That is the entire rifle. And it's a handful. It probably weighs close to 30 pounds.
Right.
But that feels good when you shoot it. You've got a little mass there to help absorb the recoil. So these are just nothing but just rods that make up the stock. They're 4130 chromoly. This aluminum block that clamps to the barrel. A trigger housing, I guess you could call it, a hand grip. And the shoulder stock. It's just adjustable. You can slide it and tilt it, whatever you want to do with that.
When you get it together, we need to
find a big place and shoot it.
Yeah, find a big place and shoot it.
So that's it. Commando frame. The guy's already had it powder coated, but now he wants to make some changes, so there goes the powder coat. But what I've got to do is cut the steering head off, this section right here, change the angle 2 degrees, make a new steering head and weld it back on. And this jig, this post is set at the angle that I want to put the new head on, or this is actually the angle of the old head, I'll change the angle of this 2 degrees, put the old head aside, put the new head on, change the angle 2 degrees, center the frame back up on the jig, square everything up, center it, and then weld the new head, the steering head, or steering, that's what's called the steering head, weld it back in. And then you can have it repowder coated.
Yeah. Who did you get powder coated?
I don't know who did this, but it's a beautiful job. I've also got to move this engine mount over 3/16 of an inch, and ultimately I've got to move the shock mounts out. We're going to make a whole new swing arm that's wider, so we can put a wider wheel and tire on it. Yeah. So we've got to move the shocks out then to compensate for that. The guy's building the ultimate Norton. The frame back there was built for a AMA flat track racing. It's built for a Yamaha FZ07 engine, and it's got a special suspension arrangement on it. And about the time we got it going well, this COVID thing hit, and all the racing's been stopped, so the project's kind of on hold. Right. Most of this stuff back in the shelves are parts for a engine I'm building for a Cobra kit car. It's a 351 Windsor with a set of Canfield heads and a special fuel injection setup on it. And it's my project, so you can see it's shoved to the back of the room. And this is my hot plate that I use for preheating that cylinder head. It's just an old piece of the stove, but I can heat the head up. It makes it weld better, and I get cleaner welds, and it makes it weld a lot easier because it takes a good while to get enough heat built up in this big cylinder head to get it to weld like you want it to. And this is Delrin, and I've got to build 20 of these. They're a testing device for testing stucco, or not stucco, but drive it. You screw this probe into the end, stick it into the drive it. You know, it's a coating on exterior a lot of houses and commercial buildings, and this probe pushes the scale back and it reads the density to tell if the styrofoam backing has got water and stuff in it and is failing. Okay. So this is what I start out with, and this is what it'll end up with. It will stay black though, it won't turn red. And over here, I was in the middle of rearranging this part of my shop, but there's the setup I'm using for cutting the flats on the side for this, and so that's what that's all about. The mill has actually got a CNC control on it, but I don't use it normally because I don't do very much production. This is somewhat production work, but it doesn't warrant any kind of a program just to do the kind of work that I'm doing.
Yeah, what size is the table?
The table is 11 by 55, I believe. Okay. It's a almost equivalent of a Series 2 Bridgeport. It's in a lot of ways it's the same. The quill size is about the same. The knee is about as deep. This machine is a do-all. It was actually built in the United States. It's got all inch fasteners on it. It's a really nice machine. I've only seen 2 of them, and I have both of them.
Yeah, it's a 40 taper, isn't it?
It's a number 40 NMTB milling machine taper. Yes, it is. Yep. And there's my rack of cutters back there, some of them. And I'm in the process of arranging my vices and holders down there. I took all this aluminum out down there, and I'm putting all of my fixtures and stuff down there so I can access them easier instead of having them laying around all over the floor. Right. And this is my Spanish lathe. It came out of Richard's Medical, and it was used in production. It had a hydraulic tracing attachment on it, so the thing really never, the compound never moved. It just, all it did was turn. The hydraulics did the rest of it. It was taken out of service by them probably almost 30 years ago, and I bought it from them. It's just been a fantastic machine. I couldn't be happier with it. And that's my inventory of materials. Most of the jobs I do are one-off, so when something comes in, I can't always want order a little piece of
Right.
aluminum or a piece of chromoly or a piece of stainless steel, whatever. So I have an inventory there that works for most of the jobs that I have to do.
That'll work. And you got that Hardinge TL.
Oh,
That,
oh
that
yeah.
One of these days we're gonna get together and
Yeah, hard
get it back together.
Yep. It's a
I
pretty,
I downloaded the PDF file, all the manuals and everything, and the rebuilding manual and everything off of the Yahoo Hardinge Lathe group.
yeah, I've got
Yeah, you already got
a
it.
lot of the information on it.
Right.
It's gathering dust. I've got really all it needs is sourcing out the rest of the bearings for the
Right.
gear change box and reassembling it, and it's pretty much ready to go. I got a nice paint job started on it. It's old, works great. Has a 36-inch deep throat. As you can see, I don't use a 36-inch deep throat very much because it's piled full of stuff, but it's there if I need it.
Yeah.
And this is my little diacro rolls. And there's a diacro shear back there.
Yep.
And there's a diacro handbrake right there behind the broom.
Yep.
And the posters on the wall are
Oh yeah,
from our drag race.
I wanted to
Drag
get.
race history. We have a Memphis Rollers reunion every year. The picture, the first one looked at there, it says Nolan and Wilbanks on the door. That car was Barry Nolan and I campaigned that car in about the early 60s. And the car down on the right, Mr. 4-Speed, I did that paint job on that car in 1968. And some different throttle bodies for fuel injection. This is a Toyota Racing Department piece. It's got a really sophisticated throttle assembly. This was a General Motors numbered part for a Cosworth Vega engine. It has a slide valve throttle. This
Right.
plate slides and opens the throttles. And that's some gun junk.
Yep. Everybody needs some gun junk on. Hang around.
This is that 351 Windsor that's going
Right.
to go in the Cobra, and I'm using a electronic ignition that uses a crank trigger, so I don't need a distributor, but I've got to have something to drive the oil pump. So I'm
Right.
making this will be cut off. This is going to have a bearing in it and just a short shaft with the gear on it to drive the oil pump.
Welding machine you got here.
This is my welding machine is a Miller Dynasty 350. As far as I know, there's nothing any better. If there was, I would have it. This one's several years old. They've made minor changes and improvements over the years. And right now I'm using a new torch control. Normally, you control the welding amperage with like a slide like this. So while you're welding, you can change the welding current. And this is fine, but sometimes it's kind of awkward to use when you're in difficult places. So this man came up with something called a TIG button. And this is a pressure sensitive switch. It does not have to move, it's just sensitive to pressure. And the nice thing about this, you can rotate the button around, use your index finger, which puts your finger behind the heat from the torch, and you can do that where it's really difficult to work that slide when you're welding with one finger like that. This is a really cool invention, really cool. 3 torches have to be set up on this machine, and these are the argon and water lines to this manifold, so I can select whatever torch that I want, and by changing just a few other things, I can use the different controls. So that's what. Okay, this is a Dart Pro 1 head, probably off of a drag race car, and the insert where the rocker arm stud screws in is pulled out. So this has got to be cut down deep enough, welded back up, and then set up at these compound angles to tap for a new thread for the rocker arm stud to go into. That's probably a $2,500 head or more. This is a
Yes.
rifle.
Yeah, I said we weren't gonna start pulling a bunch of guns out.
This was a 300-meter Olympic target rifle.
Okay.
It's built by Hemmerly, but they use a Schmidt-Rubin straight pull
Yeah.
style receiver.
Yeah.
But it says Hemmerly on it, Switzerland,
Yep.
and to cycle it, well,
Okay.
and it's cocked.
You don't have them around there, do you?
Pull the trigger.
Oh.
Whoop, there it went.
Okay.
Anyway, so that's what this is.
Yeah. That's a neat looking gun.
They took the rear sights off of them before they imported them, and I've not been able to find the correct rear sight. It was a really intricate, complicated piece. I can understand why they
Mount
kept
on
it.
that dovetail.
Yeah, mounted on the dovetail. And it had rods like some of the modern sights. This was before most of the people were building with the round rods that guided it, that held everything true and straight. I found one right after it sold. It sold in England for about $400 or $500, which I would have paid, but it was already sold. That was like 10 years ago, though.
Yeah.
And I haven't searched lately, but I searched high and low for it.
And what caliber is it?
I think it's an 8mm Swiss.
Oh, okay.
And it's marked 300, which was for a 300 meter, and this was, I guess, number 261 of the I guess that's the serial number. Or the
Okay.
Thad Scott from Indianola, Mississippi, imported several of these, and I got one of them from him. He was a famous importer of fine shotguns and rifles, and so that's who this came through. This is a die-cast model of a factory-supported 1968 Dart, a Hemi Dart, and I did this paint job on the car in 1968, and that's the paint job that I did that's on the model, and it's signed here by Mr. 4-Speed Herb McCandless. He drove for Sox and Martin in the factory. This is a collection of really not rare but very special car books. The Miller Dynasty is the history of Henry Artemus Miller, who built all the Miller Indy cars. The Last Great Miller, another story about him. The Goldenrod, that's a story about the land speed record car that the guys built back in the 60s that set the land speed record without a lot of money, which has made it even more special.
Yeah.
This is a Parker Hale Martini.
Yeah. Neat little gun.
It's, I guess you'd call it a falling block.
You're right.
And it was originally, I don't know what the caliber was originally, but it has been sleeved, I guess you'd call it, down to 22.
Okay.
And they use it for cadet training.
Right.
And
Over under. What was that 410?
no, it's just
22?
It's just a 410. The top
okay.
is just a 410.
Okay.
And let me see if I can remember how this thing goes. You
gotta cock it and then.
well, you cock it, but it Yeah, you just pull that back to cock it. And then you pull that back and you can rotate.
Remember, we had it apart here the other time.
Yeah, one time. Well, I guess we're not taking it apart today. Oh, maybe this has something to do with it. There we
Yeah,
go.
there it is.
So you can put it in your backpack.
Okay. You just got all kind of stuff everywhere in here.
This is a cannon barrel
Right.
in the rough.
Every time I see a radial fin head like that, I think Yamaha.
Yeah, that's a Pook or a Sax or something. I think it's a Pook.
Okay.
And this is a chronometer actually designed for a Corsair. It was designed
Okay.
particularly for the Corsair. It was manufactured by the Hamilton Watch Company.
Oh yeah.
And the last calibration was in 1998, I guess. And some of them go back. Now there's one in 99. Anyway, so it's and it runs. It keeps great time. I just don't keep it wound. It runs. It's a 7-day wind. It's been so long since I looked at them. No. Can you read that?
Let's see here. Yeah, I believe so.
Bosch and Loam, U.S. Marine Corps, 1944. 7x50.
Oh, that's that motorcycle we were talking about. You got a